Good afternoon and welcome to episode 27 of Coffee Chatter. This week is a very interesting week, so let's get right to it with TV news. First off, Fox has made the news this week, renewing a lot of shows and canceling one. Fox renewed 4 shows. Those of you who watch the Fox network will see many of its comedies and one thriller returning. Fox announced Friday that they will be renewing New Girl for Season 4, The Mindy Project for Season 3, Brooklyn Nine-Nine for Season 2, and The Following for Season 3. Glee is also slated to come back for Season 6, which may be its final season. God, I hope so. Along with Sleepy Hollow and Bones. Raising Hope, however, has been canceled after 4 seasons. Another daytime talk show has also been canceled. Shortly after the cancellation of Bethany, it was announced that Katie Couric's ABC talk show, Katie, has also been canceled. The show will continue producing new episodes until June of this year, but members that work on the show say they are surprised it lasted this long, getting low ratings in both Season 1 and 2. We also have another staff elimination from Dancing with the Stars to talk about, one that's kind of bothering me a little bit, but I'll get over it. Many people have been wondering what happened to the show's beloved Irish leprechaun, the lovely Tristan McManus, who partnered with celebrities such as Nancy Grace, Gladys Knight, Dorothy Hamill, and Valerie Harper. Well, he also fell victim to the staff cuts. Tristan was let go effective this season, along with new dancer Gleb. While ABC did not give a reason for letting those two go, many speculate that the reason Tristan was let go was because he has yet to make it to the finals after 5 seasons. Regardless, Tristan posted a message on his webpage saying he is happy for the new cast and will continue to focus on teaching in Los Angeles, as well as performing in Ballroom with a Twist, which is coming to New Hampshire in April. Tristan is also a newlywed, marrying in January. He and his wife plan on moving to Australia in a few years, and maybe this can mean they can reach their destination quicker. In case you hear anybody sneezing or snorting, that would be our co-host for the day, DJ. As you can see, I'm in a different angle today. I'm on the couch, so I really am short, obviously, because you can only see me from the neck up, because the couch sinks in. I was removed from my normal table because my nephew has an outstanding collection of animals that is taking the table over. So on the days that my mom works, I will be on the couch. Is off. The days that she works days, I'll be in the kitchen. Our cold case section this week is from Connecticut, a little bit closer to home, and it's from 1974. On November 1st of 1974, 13-year-old Lisa White left her home in Vernon to visit a friend's house in the Rockville section of town. When she finished visiting her friend, she left to go home and was last seen on Prospect Street. She has not been heard from since. She was described at the time as having blonde hair, blue eyes, 5 feet tall, and 110 pounds. Lisa's disappearance was the third of 5 in a 10-year time frame in the area of Vernon. On July 24th, 1968, 13-year-old Deborah Speckler vanished from Henry Park. 5 years later, on July 26th of 1973, 7-year-old Janice Pocket disappeared just blocks from her home in the neighboring town of Tolland. In 1975, 20-year-old Vernon resident Susan LaRosa was reported as missing and found deceased years later in a wooded area just miles from her home, just a few hundred yards from Interstate 84. Patricia Luce, then 18, disappeared in July of 1978 after a trip to a convenience store in Vernon. She was found deceased years later in a wooded area of Marlborough, several towns away. The July 21st, 1975 suspicious death of Stephanie Oleski happened 2 towns away from where Lisa White disappeared. The 15-year-old town resident had been found near death on Route 5 in East Windsor. She died days later from complications of serious head trauma. The manner of death is undetermined. On August 16, 1975, the body of an unidentified woman was found behind an old department store on Frontage Road, not far from Interstate 95 in East Haven. She had been found had been bound and gagged and was estimated to be between the ages of 18 to 29 years old. Police estimate she had been killed days earlier. Her identity and murderer are still unknown. For more information on this case, I can send you a website if you're interested in learning more. On March 26, 1976, 13-year-old Dawn Peterson was found murdered a block away from her home in North Windham. She had been bludgeoned to death. A teenage neighbor named Andrew Carr was tried for her murder but acquitted. Her homicide occurred just a few towns away from the disappearances in Vernon and Tolland. Her murder is still unsolved. August 27, 1978, 17-year-old Janet Reynolds vanished on her way hitchhiking from Middletown to her hometown of Griswold. She had been last seen at Four Corners in Colchester, allegedly getting into an International Scout car that was believed to be blue and had a white top. The car had been seen heading eastward on Route 16. Nearly a year later, Reynolds was found deceased. March 25, 1979, in Groton, under the Gold Star Memorial Bridge. Her murder still has not been solved. It was thought many years ago that many of these cases could have been linked, yet no strong evidence has ever proved that. Over the years, arrests were made in other sexual assaults. Two individuals particularly stand out. One, a former volunteer firefighter. The other, a former metal shop teacher. Both men are alive and still live in the state. Additional information on Lisa White can be found at the Charley Project. If you have any information regarding the disappearances of Lisa White and Deborah Speckler and the murders of Patricia Luce, please call the Vernon Police Department at 860-872-9126. For more information regarding Janice Pocket, Dawn Peterson, and Janet Reynolds, call the Connecticut State Police at 860-779-4900. Any information on the murder of Stephanie Olsky can be relayed to East Windsor Police at 860-292-8254. An update as of April of last year. In March of 2013, skeletal remains were found in Vernon near an old landfill. The area was located off of West Street, not far from where Lisa White and Deborah Speckler had vanished and/or lived. A skull, femur, and hip bone were recovered. DNA tests ruled out the remains from belonging to either Janice Pocket, Lisa White, and Deborah Speckler. It is believed that the remains belong to a white female in her 30s or 40s. No manner or cause of death has been determined for the person that died. Now the mystery deepens. Okay, next on our list we have two TV shows to review that I watched. One of them is an old one that's actually coming back. Hold on. The first one is Highway to Heaven. It's an old show from the 1970s that's actually scheduled to come back later this year or next year. Highway to Heaven is an excellent show for people of any faith. The basis of each episode is an angel sent to Earth, played by Michael Landon, who comes to offer assistance to a different situation. For example, the pilot episode was two-parted and involved the angel helping to keep a nursing home open when it was planned to be shut down and the residents displaced and separated. The second episode, he introduced a juvenile criminal with a young boy dying of leukemia and showed the criminal that there are people out there willing to give him love. In the end of that episode, the young boy dies, but the juvenile is able to be adopted by the mother, allowing her not to be alone, as well as the boy will have a place to stay and someone to love him and steer him in the right direction. This show is slated to come back later this year or early next year, and I'm anxious to see how the newer version compares to the original. Copies of both seasons are available at the library, but the show is not on Hulu. However, I have yet to try Netflix or Crackle, I guess is a new website that's similar to Hulu. So if any of you know that Highway to Heaven is on those, please let me know. Next is a new show. that, as you know, at the beginning of the year, I went through all the new shows that are going to be starting this year. And one of them I really was anxious to see, and that was ABC's Resurrection. ABC aired this new show on Sunday night at 9 o'clock. Originally, I wasn't sure of the show, but figured I'd better check it out before slamming it with a bad review. It's a good thing I did, because to be honest, this show had me hooked. Well, we all know the chances of a loved one coming back after death is pretty slim. It was interesting to view the show with an open mind. There's nothing paranormal or psychic about this show. It's simply what I will call wishful fiction. We know it won't happen in real life, but that's what makes it so interesting to watch. And you feel the emotions right along with the cast. You cry with them as they discover their loved ones coming back to life. You feel the anger that will come along with it, like why did they wait so long to return, or why are they even returning in the first place? It's very similar to a Disney fairy tale. While we know in our minds and hearts that if we leave the prom at midnight and drop our shoe, the man who returns, it won't always be our prince. But we fall in love with the stories anyway. So I'm not saying this show is for everyone, but I am saying if you're looking for a show that's not sex and trash, but instead something a little bit more joyful, then I suggest Resurrection. Next, we have our review corner, of course. Our first reading this week comes from Isaiah 55, verses 10 and 11. For just as from the heavens the rain and snow come down, really, and do not return there till they have watered the earth, making it fertile and fruitful, giving seed to him who sows and bread to him who eats, so shall my word be that goes forth from my mouth. It shall not return to me void, but shall do my will, achieving the end for which I sent it. Our psalm this week is Psalm 34, verses 4 through 7 and 16 through 19. Taste and see the goodness of the Lord. Magnify the Lord with me. Let us exalt his name together. I sought the Lord who answered me, delivered me from all my fears. Taste and see the goodness of the Lord. Look to God that you may be radiant with joy, and your faces may not blush for shame. In my misfortune I called, the Lord heard and saved me from all distress. Taste and see the goodness of the Lord. The Lord has eyes for the just and ears for their cry. The Lord's face is against evildoers, to wipe out their memory from the earth. Taste and see the goodness of the Lord. When the just cry out, the Lord hears and rescues them from all distress. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted, saves those whose spirit is crushed. Taste and see the goodness of the Lord. Our gospel this week is Matthew 6, verses 7 to 15. In praying, do not babble like the pagans, who think that they will be heard because of their many words. Do not be like them. Your Father knows what you need before you ask him. This is how you are to pray. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And do not subject us to the final test, but deliver us from the evil one. If you forgive others their transgressions, your heavenly Father will forgive you. But if you do not forgive others, neither will your Father forgive your transgressions. As you know, it's Lent, and like every Lent and Advent, I do a special reflection on each of the readings and put them into a group reflection together. And this is the first week that you guys get to be part of the Lenten reflection because it's the first week of Lent that our show lands in the middle of. So my reflection for this week, I feel that this week's reading and gospel go together perfectly. In the first reading, the message is that nothing God brings forth will return to him void. That means even our prayers, which is the topic of the gospel message. While the translation is different, the Our Father is still the topic of discussion for the gospel message. It is the first prayer we are taught as Christians, usually, and given directly to us from God himself. Therefore, that should be a prayer that is part of our daily life. If it isn't already, maybe this is something you can choose to do for this Lenten season of renewal. Both of these readings are great to go-to messages when we need encouragement. For we know that even if it seems like none of our prayers are working or nothing is going our way, we need to step back and remember God is always with us. He doesn't make junk, and everything that is happening or will happen to us is meant to happen. We only have one saint to talk about today, and it's a good thing that he's by himself because he's a very interesting Irish saint. So, Martina, I know you're severely Irish, so if I mess up any of the Celtic pronunciations, you are free to shoot me later. Our saint of the day is Saint Oengus. Oengus was an abbot and bishop of Clonagh, born in Ireland. Born in mid-8th century to royalty, Oengus studied at the Clonagh Monastery. He soon became known as a great religious scholar and the most virtuous man in Ireland, earning the Celtic title of Sail Dé, meaning servant of God. Eager to deepen his faith, Oengus left the monastery and became a hermit. Living alone, he filled his life with prayer and practiced severe self-denial to prove his devotion. Oengus's reputation for piety spread, and people flocked to his remote sanctuary. Uncomfortable with this attention, Oengus disappeared and began wandering the Irish countryside. He finally settled at the monastery of Tallaght, near Dublin. Wanting to pass as a simple lay brother, Oengus hid his identity from the abbot. Melruin. Oengus lived anonymously at Tallaght for 7 years, taking on the hardest and dirtiest jobs. Finally, Melruin learned his true identity, and the two men became friends and collaborators. Around 790, they wrote the Martyrology of Tallaght, a chronicle of the lives of Irish saints. Oengus also started a poetical hymn about the saints titled The Flier. After leaving Tallaght, Oengus returned to Clonagh and became abbot of the monastery there. At the same time, he was named bishop, which was a common practice in Ireland. Toward the end of his life, Oengus once again withdrew from monastic life to be alone and complete his writings on the saints. He died around 824. In his private prayers, Oengus exemplified deep Christian faith. Through his writings, he inspired others to seek guidance from the saints. In his footsteps, as a revered scholar, Oengus could have found relative comfort in any Irish monastery, but instead he opted to live alone. Later, his fame as a hermit who practiced austerities became a distraction from his true goal of growing closer to God. So at this point in his life, Oengus gladly sacrificed recognition for menial work to guarantee him the time for meditation he so deeply craved. In our time, two celebrities who have also turned away from their vocations, briefly or permanently, to devote themselves to spiritual growth are Dolores Hart, who appeared on screen with Elvis Presley, seemed on her way to film stardom when she gave up her career to become a Benedictine nun. Also, Jerry Brown, a one-time presidential candidate, left politics in 1982 to work with Mother Teresa, and later spent 6 months at a Zen monastery. Remember to find quiet moments to keep your relationship with God fresh. Talking with him will sustain you and help you to find peace, especially during this Lenten season. Our closing prayer. Give me the time and quietude, dear Lord, to seek solace in your grace. Let me lay aside the worries and demands that sometimes cloud my vision and blind me to your majesty. In those quiet moments, fill me with your spirit, so that I may never forget your eternal power and the promise of everlasting salvation through your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Our fan of the week this week was my sister Susan, who answered this week's question correctly, even though I had to tease her at first because she read it wrong. The question was, what keyboard symbol do the French call une petite escargot? And her original answer was French horn. Clearly, that is not a keyboard symbol. The actual answer is the @ symbol, which is that little A with the squiggly line around it that you use in emails. This week's question will be posted on Sunday sometime after 8 o'clock. And I will see you next week.